Happy birthday, I guess.
Fine.
Happy birthday, I guess.
Yeah, happy belated Jay's Day.
Congratulations on your new. Congratulations on your new baby, I guess.
I guess.
Congratulations on your child.
Congratulations on your new guitar, I guess.
Congratulations, you passed the bar.
I guess. So there's
It's a guitar nerd
jokes.
talk show, I guess.
There's jokes. A guitar nerd talk show, I guess. There's jokes. So we get, everybody on the marketing team here will sign a birthday card for people. And this past week was my birthday. And Scott Reinhardt wrote, "Happy birthday, I guess." It's so good. And then he wrote, "Amber is the color of your birthday's energy," signed by 311. And then something about shredding into old age, signed by Iron Maiden. So it was great. On that note, we're live.
We're
Yes,
live.
we have been for a minute.
We're live. It's time to start the show.
Someday I'm going to hear somebody else use that piece of stock music for something.
Yeah,
Like in
it's
the
gonna
and
bum you out.
I'm going to go into a flashback or something. It's going to be wild.
You're
Every
going to
time
be
we
like,
play
"We're
that-
live."
Every
Am I
time we
live?
play
Am I
that,
live?
I don't know why my brain goes here, but it's got the dun 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 dun. I keep thinking la cucaracha, la cucaracha. Like every time I'm like singing that in my head. Every time we play our intro, it has nothing to do with it, but it just the
has-
cadence just goes there.
Nothing to do. Guys, we got Tony back.
We
We got Tony back. We got Tony back.
What
We
a
got
get.
Tony back.
What a get.
I'm
dude.
delighted.
Tony
I'm absolutely delighted to
Polecastro,
be here.
the guitar geek himself. Holy smokes.
I mean, ultimate
Oh,
guitar
thanks.
nerd talk show here.
I mean, ultimate.
I can't tell you guys. I was really happy this worked out.
Yeah.
I also am out of the responsibility of bath and bedtime with the kids, which I will tell you,
Take that.
it's
win.
fun. It's fun to hang with the kids, but having a night off is pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty stellar to be honest.
Yeah.
Hey, we are glad we could help.
Anytime,
thanks.
We are
We make
glad
this
we
a
could
weekly
help.
thing.
What
you
I
need to
like
do the
is
show
someone
every-
mentioned
does he-
your Tony in a blues sweater.
Yeah.
Where'd that go? No, get
No,
back here.
no
I
way
missed that one.
TP. No, that's not
No.
it.
There we go. There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Tony in a blue sweater. And you got a blue vibe behind you, which
I
means
do.
you've planned this quite well. I appreciate it.
Well, when this is going to be like a subtle flex, and I don't want to like come off
Subtle
like
flex
that,
away,
but
man.
There
I
we go.
should do
Humble
it
brag.
anyway. When one of your guitar students plays on the blues, you gotta support.
Oh.
The
I
Blackhawks,
get
as
you.
far as I'm aware, do not have any guitar geeks in the organization.
That
waiting.
is a flex. I'm flexing with my OMG shirt right now. This OMG shirt is, if we're familiar with Jose Iglesias, he's a shortstop, sometimes second baseman, sometimes shortstop, on the New York Mets. Has had a heck of a season, but guess what he has and plays? Not only does he have a hit Latin single right now called OMG, pretty tight, but he also plays Taylor. Go Mets more than the Yankees.
Yeah.
There
right,
was
I was-
lack of excitement, no excitement in any of that statement.
No.
Just kind of like, yeah.
I was waiting for his. What are you flexing? You're flexing something. Your eyes. You're texting some hate. We don't have any hug your haters.
I'm
this
writing.
week,
I'm
Mike.
writing to your mom and saying like Jay's being a bad boy.
And my mom's laughing.
Mom Parkin, and she's like, well, yes.
She's laughing because the Tigers won Game 1 today.
They did. Yes, congratulations.
If we can get past the Astros, then we're going to play Gabe's team, and Gabe and
Please
I
get
will
past-
not be friends for a while. But
Yeah, it'll be
whatever.
really good. That
it's
battle's
going to
fun.
be, if you get past the Astros, it's going to be a smooth sail right to the Yankees.
We'll have to have some kind of friendly wager, Jay, if that happens.
A friendly
Is there
wager.
such a thing?
Yeah.
Is there
Like
such
what?
a thing as a friendly wager?
I don't know. I don't know what it would be. I did this with David Colt with the World Series years ago, the guy who founded Reverb, and I lost. Spoiler. Spoiler, if you haven't watched 2016 yet, my bad. But I lost, and I had to take him a case of beer from Cleveland.
A beer from Cleveland? My mom just
case
said
of
I
beer.
was laughing. There you go.
Yeah.
All right, ladies
Yeah,
and
it was a
Gentlemen,
friendly-
Tony Polecastro is back. We're just not going to talk sports the whole time.
We're
We
gonna
will
try not
leave
to.
the
It'll
segment
happen.
at the end of the show. So this week, producer Jordan put together this run of show, and it was pretty great. Jordan, we love you.
Jordan
Thank you for doing that.
rules.
Jordan's mustache actually wrote this. Last time he was on the show, he had a full goatee. Now he just has a really sick mustache. And I wanted to give a shout out to Jordan's mustache. It's great.
Shout out
It's
Jordan's
not as
stash.
good as Tony's beard, with all due respect.
Many
Let's-
things are not.
Let's
So-
give respect to where respect is due. Tony, you own the beard game. So,
Well,
but
I have mild jealousy for mustache wearers because I don't think I could ever pull that off. Period. That's a Burt Reynolds thing. I can't even approach that.
he looks low key Burt Reynolds, Jordan,
Huh?
right now.
You think so?
Mike could
Low
Mike,
key Burt Reynolds.
Mike could do a serious stash.
I could.
You
I
can see,
I
like
have.
in your mind's eye, you can picture it just looking at him in the frame here. Like,
Oh, I could just go like all James Hetfield and take off the beard portion and this part and just go like all like long, like, full on, muttony thing. I don't know what you call that.
Okay.
It's not handlebar.
Jordan looks
just
like
cop stash.
Norm Macdonald on Saturday Night Live playing Burt Reynolds. Like Turd Ferguson style. Like, funny name. Haha.
I love it.
That guy.
I love it.
I actually
Okay.
saw somebody driving around California with a license plate. I took a picture. It says Turd Ferguson.
That guy is a person who knows. I don't know.
Well,
if
who
you saw-
knows? But
That-
the license plate frame said it's a funny hat. So around it, and it was like TRDFRGSN. Like, it's a funny hat was the license plate frame. I was like, this guy wins everything. He's
that guy
good.
might be one of my new big all-time heroes. Okay,
so
okay.
good.
So tonight's show, we're talking about the dreadful plateau we all face as guitar players and musicians as a whole, playing outside our comfort zone, practicing new techniques, and even picking up new types of instruments. Whoa, this is great. This might be the remedy. We're gonna level up with Tony Polecastro. Oh, I'm so excited about
It's a good
this. You
topic.
like that?
The plateau we all face, not unlike the plateau the Tigers are facing.
The Tigers
not-
aren't in a plateau right now, actually.
Are we on
so-
90 minutes of sports? What are we?
I'm just trolling Jay a little bit.
Ah, it's so good, Gabe. This
his
is great.
birthday
I
week.
love our relationship when it comes to your terrible fandom and my wonderful fandom. Okay, let's move on. This is a Guitar
move
Nerd talk show. We talk a lot. Sometimes we talk about guitars, which is great. Let's keep the feed clean. You're all regulars out there. We don't want Gabe to have to put you in timeout. All right, we got a little game. We're going to play a game. We're bringing back This or That for Tony Polecastro, everybody. I wish we had applause
Oh,
like
Hey, I
sound
s-
effects.
We do.
saw a great-
Here they are.
I saw a great thing in the chat because we were talking about this in pre-show. Nick met Mike apparently this
Oh,
week.
we were talking about this, Nick.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mike was just telling us the story of how he got to
Nick,
meet.
I spoke of you, Nick.
Oh.
I spoke your name.
yeah.
We literally before. That's why we were
just
late.
talked about this.
Yes.
That is why we were late by like a few
It is
seconds
so
jumping online.
cool when we get to meet primetime viewers in the wild. That's very exciting.
And since I'm out more than anybody else that does primetime, I'm the lucky one who does get to meet y'all when you are in a store or come to one of our Find Your Fits or showcases or what have you. And thank you so much for coming. Did 2 of them last week, and I met primetime viewers at both. So
Oh, that was
it's-
like
yeah.
when Evan
Love it.
Smith and his mother came to visit this summer. Was awesome.
There you go.
Mom, my mom. I'm talking to my mom now. Mom, don't get jealous. I gave another mom a hug, who is an avid watcher of the show. So it was fantastic. All right, let's play a game of This or That with Tony. Tony only. All right, now the reason why I'm not allowed, Gabe and Mike are not in this segment is because Mike doesn't know how to play it. It's real confusing.
No, I know how to. All right, look.
No. No, Mike, let's just go. Let's go, Tony, real quick. And it's fine, Mike. You'll get over it. Okay. Star
know how
Trek
to
or
play.
Star Wars?
See?
I'll have to say Star Wars. I mean, to be honest, I haven't seen either.
You're the best dude alive. All right.
And
great.
at this point, I'm so entrenched in never having seen either of them. I actually can't watch them.
And that's
part of
like
my
me.
identity.
That's like me in the Godfather trilogy. I enjoy the look on people's faces when I say I've never seen the Godfather trilogy, and they go, "It's cinema masterpiece," and I say, "Yeah, I know, but I can't
me with
watch it
the-
because this is more fulfilling
That's
right
me
now."
with Sling Blade.
Is it really more fulfilling? Is it really?
It's like, nope, I'm not gonna
Is
ever
it
watch
really
it.
more fulfilling?
You're from New York. I get it. Okay. Next question.
You want to know why?
Never
You
watching
don't
it.
know whether you'll know if it's more fulfilling if you watch the damn movies.
A pineapple on pizza. Okay. Oreos.
Oh, you want to really get me going tonight?
Oreos or Chips Ahoy? Oreos. Or
Oreos.
Chips. Okay, right.
Without
Accidentally-
question.
That was the right
accidentally
answer.
vegan. Here is a sports question:
Oh,
Brewers or Cardinals?
Brewers, just because my brother lives in Milwaukee.
Okay. I was. That's a surprise with your St.
And I think the
Louis shirt.
logo's rad. I'll just put that out there.
Now I'm saying this because here's the deal. Tony's a Cubs fan, and I love that about him. And you were throwing mad shade at the White Sox earlier, which is with all
always fun.
due enjoyment we have there. I loved Carlton Fisk, though. Let me be real.
I saw, actually, funny you bring that up. I saw Frank Thomas in an airport in L.A. at one point.
He's a
Absolute
giant.
mammoth of a human being. Like
Yeah.
one of the biggest humans I've ever seen in my life.
All right, Chicago
I
question.
saw Dave
Hot dogs
Thomas
or
in a parking
hamburgers?
lot once.
Hot dogs, come on. That shouldn't even be an option.
What did I say, Mike?
Oh yeah, no. There really was no correct. There was no correct answer beyond hot dogs. So
Right,
yeah.
and I was like, he's from Chicago. He's gonna be mad if I say hamburgers in a phrase. So okay,
Vienna beef, neon relish, mustard.
dude. Right? We had an MLB launch day here. We loosely called it opening day. That is trademarked. We cannot use that, but that's what we called it here at Taylor when we launched the MLB collection. And I watched so many people put ketchup on their hot dogs.
Bad form.
I'm still have PTSD from it.
Mustard
Not
is the
bad.
answer. Jay,
Okay.
did I tell you what was here? Just
The Oscar Mayer truck.
the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile.
Yeah, I saw it.
Wienermobile.
in
Yeah,
my
Wienermobile.
town a
All right,
couple
two
days
more,
ago.
and I swear one of them is a guitar question. Thin crust or deep dish?
Then
See? Oh, Tony, you're.
Look, it was a Chicago style question because deep dish or
totally. And I can
So-
appreciate a deep dish, but it's like a stew in a crust, and I can't get behind it.
I agreed, and
it's a pizza stew.
this is true. It's fantastic. Okay, now a guitar question, and this is a really difficult this or that. Rosewood or mahogany? See? Told you.
Damn it. I'm gonna say mahogany
And why?
because it can be a bit of a shapeshifter. My main guitar that I play out is an Atkin J43. It's mahogany, and I just love it. It's dry, it's woody. But I have probably 50-50. I got a handful of both. So this is a very difficult question. I'm going to say mahogany. I think it's a utility wood.
All right. Let's open this one up to the rest of the field here. Mike, rosewood or mahogany?
For purely utilitarian reasons, I'm going to say mahogany. Because, if you talk to Andy or Bob and they, the question is, if you had one wood to build a guitar out of,
Right.
they'll build it out of mahogany because you could do top, sides, back, neck, the whole thing out of mahogany and it'll sound incredible. While you can make an all rosewood guitar, it's not going to quite sounded as good as as a all mahogany guitar. So, in my opinion, personally. So I think that since because of its versatility, being a top wood as well as sides and back, I would say that too. However, for personal reasons,
Yeah.
I like rosewood.
Huh.
Because when I sing, I prefer to sing with the spruce rosewood guitar.
Okay. Gabe?
No, mahogany. All my favorite guitars are mahogany.
Yeah, mahogany.
Builder's Edition 517 is my deserted island guitar. I'm my classic 514 that I've had for a million years. I love mahogany guitars. All the guitars I've ever had in my hands that I really got obsessed with were almost all mahogany. There's some walnut. There's a few rosewood ones, but most of the time it's mahogany.
Yep.
It's just that dry woody sound.
Dry, woody sound. That's me. Mahogany all day. Which is weird. I mean, rosewood guitars sound great, but
They do.
for me, same thing. It's that utility. It's that, it kind of gives that warmth that I need, kind of that dryness. I like it. Yeah. All right.
That's
Okay.
3.5 votes for mahogany.
See, I told you he does not know how to play this game.
Listen, no, I said mahogany first. I said mahogany first.
Okay,
Did
3
I not?
3/4 votes for mahogany.
Yeah.
Star people.
I'm just saying though, like it's the more versatile of those two woods, and if I was forced to pick one and you put a gun to my head, I would have to say mahogany.
I have another question. It's not. Let's just kind of deep dive real quick. I would like to have Chris from Driftwood on the show. I think he's fantastic. He's close to Bob, so I'm going to reach out and see if he would jump on the show. He's great. He's a great young luthier. He's doing great things. I'm a fan. He had a piece of content recently where he was talking about not building hardtop acoustic guitars. How do you feel about hardtop acoustic guitars, such as mahogany or a Koa, or are you guys big fans of soft woods like spruce? What is your opinion there? I'll go with Tony first.
I think an all mahogany guitar is maybe one of the best guitars ever made. I have a 35 single 017 that used to be my main gigging guitar, but for obvious reasons, I don't bring it to bars and stuff. I just think there's a certain sweetness to those guitars, and I think it'd be silly to write that off. I think Koa makes an incredible top wood as well, obviously aesthetically, but tone wise, I mean, you look at even, I think you guys do probably one of the best jobs of building an all Koa instrument. But even if you look at like Weissenborns from the 20s,
Oh yeah,
there's nothing that sounds like that. And I think it'd be silly to write that off. I really do.
yeah, great. I totally agree. Mike? Which, by the way, I want to. This isn't us throwing shade by any means. It's everybody's got their own opinion, right?
Yeah.
When Bob sought out to build this company, Taylor, he didn't want to win at tone. That's not what he was trying to win, right? Sound is subjective. What is bright to you might be warm to somebody else in a weird way, right? It's like when you're a kid. Is that really blue? Is that the same blue that I'm seeing, or are they seeing a different color? It's that kind of vibe, right? Yeah. But anyway, so this is just an opinion question. Mike, how do you feel about hardtop instruments?
I think in the right context, they work really, really well. Let's be honest, it's kind of like a different shape, a different, way, a different type of brace. It's going to give you something different than you have in your spruce top guitar, right? Just like, if you have a spruce rosewood guitar, it's going to sound different than spruce mahogany. If you add a hard top onto it, it's just going to give you more of whatever that side and back is going to give you. So if you want to focus more on what the sides and back are giving you, if it's a match top to sides and back, which it mostly is like that, right? In the case of Koa, in the case of mahogany, it's very much like that. I think that if you enjoy the sound of mahogany and you want to amplify those frequencies even more, get a hard top, get a mahogany top version of that. Koa, like Tony said, from the aesthetic point of view, it's bulletproof. I mean, Koa just looks amazing, you know. We've even made all maple guitars. Depending
yeah.
on how you manipulate it, you can make that sound really, really good. And I think our all maple guitar sounded really, really good.
Yeah, it was
and
kinda
maple
cool.
is a
It was like
very
an
hard
old-
top guitar.
It's like sometimes, and forgive us for calling it this, but you're talking about the all maple 8027, yeah?
Yes.
Flame
correct.
top, right?
Yep.
With nickel bronze strings on that thing. I mean, I used to, the only way that I could describe it is it sounded like a very old, crappy Gibson. And like there is something special when
the
you
best
find
way.
an old Gibson in like, in a room that's been sitting there for decades upon decades. It's just rusty strings and everything's kind of terrible about it. And then you play it. And then imagine you set your Andy Powers, right? I've seen this. He'll pick it up and he'll be like, ooh, this is neat. Like there's something about that old kind of crusty,
Has a
tonality.
mojo to it for sure.
It's got a mojo.
Absolutely. Yep.
Gabe?
I mean, I like hardwood tops, especially mahogany tops, like the old classic, like D15, Martins, especially if you get a good old one, or, have always been one of my favorite guitars. I mean, if I only could pick one, top wood, I'm sure I would pick spruce or something, but because, I love spruce and cedar, but, I think hardwood tops can be really cool. I think the flame top 80 was super cool. Koa has strangely always been a guitar like I love paired with other things as a top wood, and have never enjoyed personally as a top wood until I played the 724. That was a game change for me. That sonically, it Koa always to me as a top wood sounded like what I imagined maple to sound like until Andy made a good sounding maple, solid maple top guitar, which for 20 years I was like, nope, nobody will ever do it because it'll sound like crap. And then Andy made one that sounded cool, and I was like, okay, that's doable. But yeah, the 724 was kind of a game change for me in terms of Koa top woods. I've never really enjoyed Koa as a top wood until then. I was like, oh, this is a special thing. Like this sounds incredible. It's like by far the best, Koa top guitar I've ever heard. It was rad. I think that guitar is a game change.
Game changer. I was trying to find a link real quick so that I can post it in the comments over here, but I have a note here from producer Jordan that says to let everybody know our holiday gift guide is live. So if you know anybody looking for a guitar, we do a great piece of content on our website. I'll put the link in the comments after I find it.
It's also
point
good to
during
give
this show.
yourself a gift. So the gift guide could be for yourself.
Oh yeah, give yourself a gift. That's true. But sometimes, you get those questions. You're a guitar player. What should I buy for my so-and-so?
Yep.
Right.
100%.
So it's a nice piece of
A 50th
content.
anniversary baritone is a great place to
Oh,
start.
we're going to talk about that. I had Steve do a little number on that one later on in the
Little
show.
ditty.
We're going to talk
A
about
little
it.
ditty.
That's an out of your comfort zone guitar.
Yes.
See how we're doing this? Also, the Give One Gift One campaign is available. Promo is happening right now.
Get an Academy nylon. They're great too.
Yeah. Mike, what is
Yes.
the Give One Gift One?
It's a get one, gift one. And
Get one, give one?
Yeah, you don't want to give one and gift one. You want one for yourself. So
Get one,
Get
gift
them
one.
all.
That's what I mean.
Gotta
get
catch 'em
one,
all.
gift one.
I think
It's-
we could go back last year when we did this promo, and I did the same thing.
Probably.
So, Mike, what is this promo?
Well, we started a promo today. Taylor Guitars is sponsoring this promo. The Get One, Gift One promo going from now through, I believe it's January 6th. And during this time, if you purchase any new 300 or 400 series guitar, you could purchase along with it a Baby Taylor BT1 for $99, a GS Mini Sapele for $199, or any Academy Series guitar, doesn't matter, it's electronics, without electronics, nylon, whatever, for $299. And it's one guitar per purchase. You can't buy several of them. But if you keep buying more 3s and 4s, you can keep buying the other ones at a great discount. And so basically you can get one and then gift one, or get one and gift one to yourself. And that way you have two. But, like I always say, why buy one guitar when you could buy two? And so this makes it a lot easier to do so. and they are some of our most
You're
popular
a sales
guitars.
guy.
Indeed. But they are some of our most popular guitars, and to have them as add-ons in this promotion for the next couple of months is great. So, and we have a lot of great 300 and 400 series guitars out there looking to be adopted and taken home, and have a little friend go with them as well. So,
Some fun stuff to think about. So, GS Mini is a great guitar. Everyone needs to have a GS Mini or 4. And then the Academy series. The Academy series, specifically for me, the Academy 12EN is the nylon string Academy series guitar is arguably, I know people don't like when we say this, Bob would say it, Andy would say it, it's arguably the best nylon string guitar that we make because
Yep.
it was the first one that Andy designed. So it's a little bit, it's different. It's different. It's fantastic. So if you know anybody looking for a nylon string, use the promo.
100%. I mean, really,
fun guitar.
for me, the biggest one. I mean, look, all those three, the Baby Taylor, GS Mini, Academy, all are great. But really, the addition of Academy series being able to be gotten for $299, tremendous value.
And
Tremendous
with
value.
electronics, that's
with or
that's
without nylon, whatever,
that's a
it doesn't
heck of a
matter.
get.
Yep.
Yeah,
Any permutation of the Academy series guitar.
that's super.
I
cool.
feel with all this promotion, Tony is going to skate right off the show and go buy a guitar right now.
Or two.
I don't do that. I don't buy guitars. That's just rumor. That's rumor and myth.
Yeah, that's rumors. All right, we got you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Tony Polecastro is back with us. If you don't know Tony, let's get to know Tony. Man,
Totally Tony.
Tony and Taylor go way back. That is true. I want to tell a story about the last time we had Tony come out to the factory. And I think I told this story the other time Tony was on Primetime. And it was, I love this story so much, that you called us out for something when we launched V Class, maybe. And it was drawings, Andy, and we animated these drawings. And it was super markety and hilarious. And I loved doing that part because it was hard to make. Actually, the guy who animated that went on to direct the new live-action Blue's Clues movie. So he's pretty successful. He got some awards for it and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so Tony calls us out on his guitar show that he has, and I'm like, "This is so good. I love this." What do I do, ladies and gentlemen? I hug the haters. I'm not saying Tony was a hater, but. So I call him out and I go, right, well, I went back to my team and I was like, yeah, I got an idea. We should bring Tony here and have him sit with these guitars. I want to say they were when we launched the Grand Pacific. So we launched the Grand Pacific. On the way to the airport, he tells his dad, hey, I'm going to Taylor. His dad says, why? I'm probably paraphrasing a little. Why? And he's like, they're flying me out here. Oh, goodness. Didn't he say something like, you should be going to Martin? But anyway.
Yeah. It's like a Chevy Ford thing in our family.
Yeah.
And he's just of the ilk. He's like, I just, no, not for me. And I'm like, Dad, just open it up a little bit. You spent, 60 plus years in one lane, like, there's a whole highway here. Let's change lanes.
I love it. So Tony is a fan of guitar. He's a teacher of guitar. He innovated a lot of guitar dealer content on YouTube. He started that quite early at Music Villa with the acoustic letter. So Tony we are a fan of Tony's. So I hope if you've never met Tony before, you learned something tonight. What a better person to talk about jumping out of your comfort zone as a guitar player. We all get stuck in these ruts. And anyway, let's dive into it. Mike and I will ask you some questions. Gabe might say something about the Guardians, but feel free to ignore him. It's fine. No, I'm just kidding, Gabe.
He's just the weaker kid on the bus.
His team, I'm sorry, but his team, with all due respect, Gabe's team was so fire this year, and they have a lot of spirit, and I just hope that they lose. All right.
sorry,
Tony,
Wow.
besides kids, what have you been up to lately, man?
Man, kids definitely has occupied a substantial amount. So what have I been up to lately? Wow. We can start with the personal, and then we can dive into Tony's Acoustic Challenge. And I'll try and give you the Cliff's Notes version. Had a great summer of gigs. Had a great summer of writing. Actually, just earlier today, recorded the first 3 tracks. Not the first in order, but 3 tracks for a new album that'll come out probably 2025 at some point, which is just fun. It's exciting. You know, I never create an album to, you know, sell or necessarily be popular. And I know that doesn't sound all that inspiring, but it's really more for me. It's a time marker for me, and very delighted to have that going. The summer was great. I had a set of gigs with Tony Furtado, which actually correlates to what we're talking about today. I had a couple gigs with Charlie Parr. And then, you know, this summer was awesome in the Tony's Acoustic Challenge world, because this was really the first. August marked a year of stepping down from the Acoustic Tuesday show, which was and still is very difficult for me to kind of wrap my head around. But it allowed for a lot of time, a lot of investment of time into developing Tony's Acoustic Challenge to what it is now, which is a totally different from when we first started 10 years ago. We've integrated a lot of habit science. We've changed a lot of the interface of the website to reflect habit science and keep people on track, keep people consistent, and ultimately, you know, really focused on the right things. And it has very little to do with how quote unquote good or bad you are.
For those of you who don't know Tony's Acoustic Challenge, Tony, what is Tony's Acoustic Challenge all about?
So Tony's Acoustic Challenge is my lesson platform, and Tony's Acoustic Challenge, I guess if I was to kind of give you the elevator pitch as to what it is, yes, it's a lesson platform. You sign up. A lot of our members are yearly members. Some of them are quarterly members. And the idea is you log in every day and you have a lesson waiting there for you. But the method behind that has to do with a very small time commitment. We a lot of times compare playing guitar in the time it takes to drink your morning cup of coffee. We focus on learning your essentials and building a foundation through songs. I think a lot of times the common myth is that you have to learn all this boring stuff over here, and then you can get to the fun stuff. And what I like to do is look at a song, break it down into its essential skills. I categorize them in 5 areas: technique, signature guitar licks, improvisation, rhythm, and chord transitions. So I kind of run the songs through that filter. And then each day of the week, there's a lesson based on that within a singular song. So by the end of the week, you get this kind of 3D look at the song. And what I love about it, and what I often tell people, is that, you know, beginners come into playing guitar, learning guitar, with a lot of commonly held myths, kind of the things that they heard, the word on the street. And I think there's this preconceived notion that, you know, guitar is boring at first and then it gets more fun, or guitar is a struggle at first and then it gets more fun. Now, I'm not saying guitar is easy. What I'm saying is that you can have fun throughout the entire process. And then the final element is just this small dose of time, which I referenced before, that, you know, again, it's a common myth. You got to spend hours and hours and hours and hours a day. And the reality is that that's not a reality unless you're, you know, a professional musician going on tour, et cetera. With that, we've incorporated, and this is within the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years, a lot of habit science concepts and mindset adjustments to help people feel good about what they're doing, as opposed to feeling obligated or guilty, or, you know, fill in the blank, self-doubt, self-limiting beliefs that can develop, I mean, really in anybody's guitar journey, you know, wherever they may be.
That's awesome.
I love that you're talking about addressing those kind of mental pieces of that journey. because so much of what gets people to, or what causes people to step away over time is allowing things to get in the way, or kind of creating your own hurdles. Oh, I don't have time for this, or I'm busy, or I'm just not that good, or this is as good as I've gotten. I hear stuff like that a lot.
I mean, you nailed it, Gabe. And it's funny because just earlier today, I was thinking about, actually, I didn't plan this, but I was thinking about Taylor guitars, and I was thinking about some of these concepts. And, think of like a young Bob Taylor, a young Andy Powers. If they came into building guitars with the expectation that they were going to build their best guitar right out of the chute, they probably would have stopped.
Yeah,
but the idea is build a better guitar. The next one will be better than the last one. The next one will be better than the last one, et cetera. And it just keeps going. It's looking at that incremental progress that I think is really unique in terms of, from a guitar builder's perspective. Well, that same incremental progress applies to guitar, but our expectations are so out of line. And I say our, meaning the kind of, guitar learners, guitar students as a collective, because you can go on YouTube and find 5 different videos, and pretty soon your self-esteem is so beat up, you're like, I'll never be that, so why even try? And I think
100%.
Bob and Andy could be in the same in the exact same, looking at it from the exact same perspective. Oh, there's all these other guitar makers, why even try? Well, they were trying to build the better guitar. The next one was going to be better than the last one, etc.
There's that excitement when you first start playing. There's that excitement of when you accomplish something. And the more you learn and the farther you get in the journey, the less often you get that big dopamine bump from accomplishing something really significant. And so you can start to peter out and stop challenging yourself. I think I always say, I worked in guitar retail for a long time before I went into marketing. And I would talk to a lot of folks who are older beginners, and a lot of people who are starting out as they get older, or getting back into guitar as they get older, would struggle along. And I always say, it's much easier to jump in as a kid, because as an adult you can do so much stuff already. You can make your own food and drive your car. But when you started learning to drive a car, you didn't just get in and you could go. You were terrible at it. I hit things. I don't know about everybody else, but
wow, you're a bad driver.
I didn't hit things. No,
I know.
I did. There's a story. But you suck at everything when you're a kid, and pretty equally. And so you're just used to that, and you're okay with it. And as an adult, you're a lot more self-conscious. And I think that
for sure.
When you kind of feel like you've plateaued, which I'm there. I feel like I've just so plateaued in my 40s, and I'm like, yeah, this is as good as I am. And I think that happens a lot because you get into a groove where you're just like, oh, this is where I am, and finding a way to get excited again is very, for me personally, is super appealing.
I think Tony knows a guy that can help you with that.
I think he does.
If you go to Tony's Acoustic Challenge,
that's literally
he may be
what
able
I was
to help
thinking.
you with that, Gabe.
It's in another browser window right now.
There you
I was
go.
hey, this seems like it might be a really good idea.
Tony, I got a quick question for Tony. Before we get into the whole getting comfortable with being uncomfortable thing, which we can segue into from this, the thing that I really like about your program and what you're professing here is that, you don't need the 10,000 hours thing.
No.
To have fun and enjoy yourself and keep learning and getting better, right? And even after 10,000 hours, like you said, there are pros that practice, hundreds of hours a month and thousands of hours a year or whatever, because that's what they're doing. Even that's past 10,000 hours. It's not like that's a hard stop, right?
Right.
So you're always going for that, but you don't need to hit that 10,000 hour thing to be in control of what it is that you're doing to a certain extent. Would you agree with that, with what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different views of that 10,000 hours thing. I personally don't like it. I don't like this on-off, very black and white distinction of you've now mastered something because you spent 10,000 hours on it. I mean, there's so many variables what was the quality of the 10,000 hours? Did you, I mean, I guess you could play the same exact thing for 10,000 hours. You'd probably be amazing at that, but you would be a very one-dimensional type of player. And, you know, I think this is one of the major, I would say pitfall. I don't want to keep using the word myth, but I think it's one of the major pitfalls is when people get into guitar. And, you know, a lot of students of Tony's Acoustic Challenge, I would say well above 80% are retired. They're older beginners. So Gabe, what you were talking about is kind of carrying in this hesitation because you already know how to do so much stuff. And I think one of the interesting aspects, and Mike, I'll come back to what I was getting at with the 10,000 hours. One of the interesting aspects about a retired beginner, and I say that with respect, this is not, I'm not talking negative, is that for 40 years or however many years you held your job, your identity was that job. You likely crushed that job. You knew the ins, the outs. You knew, you know, Pam in the office. You knew, you know, Ronnie who was in the cubicle next to you, or whatever trade or work environment you were in. When you retire, that is gone. And pretty soon, I noticed this a lot. I've had a lot of discussions with a lot of the students, and they're like, I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't know what is my thing. And it's a very scary step because as an adult, you're quote unquote supposed to know. And I think you can be in that spot. And I think it's probably a very unsettling spot. And I can even speak, you know, from my dad's experience. I think it took him a good long time to finally feel like, oh, I can do these other things that I'm not good at, but man, this is fun. And I think guitar falls in that category. So many students say, you know, I've been wanting to play guitar. I've been holding off playing guitar until I retired because I needed to have that time. And then this is from my father-in-law, and this is a quote I hear a lot too. Gosh, you know, now that I'm retired, I felt like I was going to have all this time. I have less time than I've ever had. People are helping out with the grandkids, et cetera, you know, what have you. And that time piece, going back to what you were saying, Mike, about the 10,000 hours, it's just a fallacy. There's too many variables to say 10,000 hours, you'll master it hard stop. I think that the idea of getting to a level of mastery is a complete illusion. Guitar, you will never master the guitar. I don't care how many hours or how many hours you don't, how many hours you do play, how many hours you don't play. There's no such thing as mastering the guitar. There's always a new element. And I try and steer people away from that type of thinking because 90% of these folks just want to sit around and play a couple songs that they know. They want to be able to move around some chords, to play songs, play with their buddies, crack a beer on the weekend, sit in the garage and just, you know, hammer out a few tunes and have some fun. And it's kind of steering people in that direction of like, this is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be fulfilling. This is supposed to even increase your social connection. You know, you get around other people that like guitar. It's not about being good, bad, or otherwise. It's about sharing a common interest with other people. And I mean, even talking about my father-in-law again, and I think he'd be more than happy for me to share this, but like you reach a certain age, you retire, and all of a sudden you're like, do I even have any friends? All my friends were at work. I saw them every day. They were built into my life. And now you're kind of, in a way, stripped of that. So the guitar can be this outlet for connection that I don't even think people realize, because there's this weird gatekeeping or this illusion of gatekeeping of like, I have to be good enough to call myself a guitar player. I have to be good enough to be around these people. When in reality, when you're around those people, you actually learn more and you do end up getting pushed out of your comfort zone.
100%.
I'm glad you said that, Tony, because there is this weird. It's like there's this. I know we don't want to harp on the words myth, right? But yeah. this idea of there's an entrance exam in order to play guitar, right? Yeah. And you've heard me say it before. This is my opinion, and I've been in this music industry for, man, going on 25-ish years, something like that, 30 years. I don't know. I'm old, right? I officially turned old. And so I've been doing this forever. I've been a fan of music forever. I've been going to shows in Detroit. You were talking about this about my mom. back in the day, everyone's like, you let your son drive to Detroit and go see shows? And my mom's like, yeah, it's music, right? Like, whatever. I mean, my mom
You're
been to
from
punk
Flint.
rock
How
shows.
much worse could it be?
Yeah, I'm from Flint. How much worse could it be? I mean, the water might even be better in Detroit. You know what I mean?
was gonna say.
Anyway, but what I love about a Tony's Acoustic Challenge and how you approach things are small wins. Small wins. The idea of, you know what might be killer is being able to fret a D chord real
For
well.
sure.
And then maybe go from a D to a A? Like that's cool. And you've heard me say this in the past. It's look, we're a guitar manufacturer. Yes. This show, we like to talk about guitar stuff. We like to talk about recording guitars and writing guitars and playing guitars and Gabe's weird fandom of the Guardians. Like we like to talk about all of it, right? But small wins. Spend a little time doing something you love for a little bit of time. You're going to master that little thing, and that's
They're
fulfilling.
pivotal.
It's very simple. It's one more sidebar. I love, and I got this from my dad. I love to wash cars. Like, I love it. You want to know why? It's a dumb, mundane task. And the risk reward thing is amazing. You have a dirty car, you clean it, and when it's done in that short period of time, you're like, that's amazing. I feel good about looking at that car. So much so that I'm going to move that car over there and I'm going to get my wife's car and I'm going to wash my wife's car. Like, it's so, I feel good about it. When you have that list, you're working all day long and you have that list of to-dos that you're just powering through. Gabe does it all the time. I love it. He'll just be, he'll be editing something for us or working on some, like one of the 50th anniversary podcasts, which is a bear because they're like an hour and a half, right? So he's editing this stuff. He'll take guitar breaks and it's just for a short period of time. I love the idea of you can accomplish this in the amount of time that you drink your morning coffee. That's it.
Yeah, and I want to riff on that for a second, Jay. And I don't want to. I think what you touched on, you said washing cars is so rewarding.
Yeah, I mean mundane, but rewarding.
One of the things that we've made a conscious effort of is incorporating actual science to the way the program is laid out. And I say this because I think this is a unique separator. This is not a sales pitch. This is reality. I haven't seen this in any other platform in the guitar world, period. And it's using the science of habit to actually facilitate a positive guitar experience. There's this thing called the habit loop. I'm going to reference a couple books here. For those interested, eat them up. For those who aren't interested, don't worry about it. It's what is it? I have it written here. Cue, craving, response, reward. This is from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. It's a stellar book. I recommend it to everybody. But you focused on the reward piece, Jay, and that is such a crucial element. Cue, the car is dirty. Craving, I want the clean car. Routine, clean the car. Reward, man, that feels good. I would love to do that again. It's this self-perpetuating loop. And we see it in all sorts of other things. You see it with brushing your teeth. Wow, my teeth feel fuzzy. I want to have clean teeth. Brush your teeth. Man, I feel great. I could actually breathe around people.
Right.
And thus goes the habit loop. Well, guitar is in the same spot, but what people miss with guitar, and this is not anybody's fault, is the reward piece. Because we fall into the category of what we do is never enough. Especially with guitar. I'm not good enough. Look at this video. Look at that player. Look at how they do this. I'm not good enough. And I'll reference another book. It's called Gap versus Gain. And it's very similar in line of James Clear's Atomic Habits. You can have gap thinking or you can have gain thinking. Gap thinking is focusing on what lies ahead. You'll never reach it because you continue to push it forward. It's like this hedonic adaptation of what you can strive at because of your current skill set. Whereas if you have gain thinking, you always measure backwards. How was I yesterday? How was I a week ago? How was I a month ago? We actually just started this within our program. We have what we call benchmark songs. Every 3 months, the same song comes around. we encourage people to record it. When they record it, they post it. So they have this actual physical evidence of apples to apples comparison of their progress. And you can see it. You can see it each quarter after each quarter, people are like, oh my God, like I actually am getting better. So measuring backwards, focusing on the gain is far more productive than focusing on the gap, because you get that charge of reward and it keeps that habit loop going. The last book I'll mention is BJ Fogg's Tiny Habits. Life-changing, because he's actually a behavioral scientist at Stanford University, also a guitar geek. I saw a picture. He's got a Gruen guitar shirt on, which made me feel so good and that much closer to him. I actually went through I went through his certification program, and he focuses on taking your habit and reducing it to the absolute most ridiculous easy amount. And I tell people to open your guitar case. That's your habit. Tune your guitar. That's your habit. Oh, well, that won't get me any better. That's not the point. The point is to push the little snowball off the top of the mountain. Because once you get your guitar in your hand and you tune it, tell me you're not going to play it. You're going to. But even if you don't, you still committed to that habit. And then as you do the habit, you make it small. When you finish that habit, you reward yourself. And that could be, if you like Kit Kats, get a Kit Kat. That's external validation. That's really not applicable here. But hey, if that's what it takes, do it. But he says celebration is such a pivotal element of keeping a consistent any habit, right? All of a sudden, when you say, man, that was awesome. I measured backwards. I did this better this week, or I did this better than I did yesterday. You start that cycle over again. You're that much more eager to jump into it again. And the reason I bring this up is because I'm a total dork about it, number one. And number two, I see the connection directly with guitar, but I also see this huge missing link of we don't ever experience the reward piece because it's never good enough. We're always comparing. And it really, you kind of shoot yourself in the foot right off the bat. It's like, no, you played 10 minutes. You worked on something. Awesome. You know more than you did yesterday. Celebrate. Do it again tomorrow. I call it a guitar journey for a reason. That's kind of a widely adopted phrase. I don't think I started it, but it really is. We don't call it like guitar destination. Like that's an illusion. I mean, I don't want people should have goals. People should have goals. Yes. I think that's pivotal to progress, but don't get so hung up in your goals. You don't see the bigger picture of what you're actually doing, and it's in its entirety.
So I've got one here that I got to read real quick, Gabe. This is good. First of all, my mom likes you, Gabe. It's fine. Second, my mom sent a text and she said, this might be the best show ever. Right? Like, I think I could learn how to play guitar. Thanks, Tony. My mom's 84. My mom's 84. And I've been telling her forever, it's not too late, man. Just pick up something you want to try, something different. And it's that small, tiny wins. I relate this to as stupid as this exercise, right? Sometimes we don't have time. I don't have time to do that thing. I jump rope every single morning, and I only jump rope for 15 minutes. I give myself 15 minutes. And I find the 15 minutes, and I sucked at it when I started. Man, I had no rhythm. I'm a hockey player with weird, terrible ankles. Like everything's not jump rope worthy on this body, right? I'm 6'5". Like it's like I kept hitting myself in the head. And then I found that they have ropeless jump ropes with weights on the side, which then I was like, oh, that's cool. And I started doing this thing, so I got the rhythm. Now you should see me with a jump rope. I look like I'm training in Rocky 5 or something like that. Like, you know what I mean? It's just rhythm. It's the easiest thing in the world.
J. Paulo Creed.
Creed. Rest in peace. Rest in peace, Paulo Creed. But anyway, I love this. Let's keep moving. What is your best advice? I know we were talking about that 10,000 hours thing, but what is your best advice to an intermediate or experienced guitar player who may have hit that plateau in their journey? I like journey. You mentioned this is a journey. There's not a destination, right? It's a similar thing that we talk about sustainability here at Taylor. We are not sustainable. We are working on becoming more sustainable. So you're working on
Yeah.
becoming a better guitar player. At this point, you have a plateau. I have a plateau. What would you say to me?
I think plateau is I don't think plateaus exist. I think it's a self-induced punishment. And I think it's directly tied to expectation. I think what ends up happening is you don't want to sound bad. Nobody wants to sound bad. Period. I don't want to sound bad. I don't want to be playing guitar and have my neighbor walk by on the street and be like, what a hack. This guy must have just started. I don't want to sound bad. I have the expectation that I'm going to sit down and get better every single time. And you do, whether you realize it or not. But what extinguishes that is this future focused thing. You're always trying. I'm not that, so I didn't get any better. It's just not true. And I think it's just a perspective shift. And with that, I think, yes, a lot of it is perspective shift. Focus on the wins, focus on the gains. Think of it. You brought up fitness. I think it's a great parallel. You don't walk into the gym and say, what, I'm going to bench 345 pounds today. You'll die.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
You-
I do that.
I do.
The
I put on
reality
one of those
is,
leather weight belts.
I mean,
Yeah, I do
Well,
that.
yeah,
I
I
walk
mean,
in, I say, I'm going to lift 345 pounds today. I do it 1 pound at a time, 345 reps.
People are like,
But
I'm
I
gonna
do
run
it.
a marathon this weekend. I haven't trained.
yes. Yeah. I mean, and that's why they make 2.5 pound plates. That's why they make half-pound plates. You work up to that. And it's the same thing here. And I think because you're cursed as an intermediate or mid-level, I don't know what the actual terminology means. I don't even think it is really, there's no like criteria for intermediate or higher level. Whatever you perceive yourself as, that's fine. But I think in that zone, you have the curse of knowledge. And I think what ends up happening is you need to adopt a beginner's mindset again. You need to find things that you can't do and you need to try. Anders Ericsson, I can't remember the name of his book. It's something about performance. Another professor, another book that I dorked out on. He says, about setting a goal. 90 days is apparently the magical window. You need to accomplish your goal in 90 days. Your goal needs to be outside your comfort zone, not so far that you'll never reach it. And it can't be too easy because then you'll reach it right away. It needs to be in the sweet spot where you can't do it and you're striving for it. And I'll use an example of my own playing this summer. I got a call. I was visiting Matt Chalka at Eddie's Guitars in St. Louis, ironically going to a blues game. And I was driving to Chicago to visit my son from St. Louis. I get a call from Tony Furtado. For those of you who don't know Tony, check out his music. Phenomenal player, slide player, banjo player, plays everything. He's played forever with everybody. I get a call from him. He said, hey, can you hop in on 2 gigs with me this summer I have in Montana? And I'm like, hold on. Let me check with my wife. Call the wife. What's on the schedule for this and such a date? We don't have anything. Awesome. I call Tony right back. I totally can do it. Awesome. I'll send you the details of the gig. I hung up the phone and I just had like cold sweat just immediately. I'm like, what the hell did I just agree to?
Oh boy.
I don't consider myself in the same class as Tony Furtado.
How about real quick?
But
your beard does, and your
my beard does
can be blamed for accepting this gig. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. But what it did is ironically, it forced me into a position of having a goal that pushed me well outside my comfort zone. I didn't think it was impossible. I just knew that it was going to take dedicated, very consistent effort to get to where I needed to be to play these songs. Because I've filled in on a lot of gigs before, and you can lean on, I'm an okay player. I can just hack my way through. Tony's different. Like, his songs have a structure. His songs have parts. He plays a lot of fiddle tunes. He likes a lot of matching pieces. Like, we're going note for note, playing, either harmony pieces or pieces just mirroring one another. So I had to learn this stuff. And it just made me look at things so differently. And it was well outside my comfort zone. I finished these gigs and this huge weight came off my shoulders, number one, because it was stressful. But number two, I had this feeling of like, I got better for sure. without question. Because at the beginning of those 2 months, I could play maybe 2 songs out of his catalog, and then I showed up to the gig and I knew every song he threw at me, which is phenomenal. I mean, this is an isolated incident, but I think the key here is, number one, step back, look at what you're doing. Make sure you're focusing on winning. Make sure you're focusing on the progress you are making, not where you're going and how far you are from it. It just puts you in the wrong headspace. And number two, when you do set a goal, make sure it is outside your comfort zone, but not so far that it's impossible or just like absurd. You know, put it just within reach. You need to strive for it, because then you'll get there. And I'll throw in one more thing. I think accountability is probably one of the biggest motivators you could ever use, whether that's telling somebody, posting it on social media, scheduling an open mic, what have you. Just putting something that holds you accountable and kind of ties you to your goal, I think, is a really effective thing as well.
You know, Tony, when you're talking a couple of points, a couple of things come to mind when you're talking about that, looking ahead and seeing it. It's not on the horizon. You don't even know where the horizon is. Like, I'll just never be able to do that. It reminds me a little bit. There was this philosopher named Zeno. I'm going to get really nerdy here. And he had something called the dichotomy paradox. And the dichotomy paradox basically said you can't reach a goal because there's always a halfway point that you need to pass. And that halfway point is always moving. Right? So when you think about it, like, all right, well, I make a big leap. I need to go 1 meter. Great. Well, that means I got to go to a half meter. When I get to a half meter, that means I got to go, there's another halfway point. It's a quarter meter. All right. Now I get to quarter. Now I got to go to an eighth meter to reach that. And there's always a halfway point. And people can't think like that, because he does say that's an impossibility, because you need to eventually be able to get to a goal, right? What people, I think, should do in that case is exactly what you're saying. You get to that halfway point. Don't look ahead. Look behind and see how far you've come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really where you should start getting that extra energy to take you to your next halfway point, if you want to look at it from that angle. So I love that part of it where, you know, you're encouraging people, just, you know, keep working and take your small wins. And you don't have to do a lot to get there either. And I really love the record a song, come back later, record a song 3 months later, the same song, because that is that whole looking behind you thing, right?
Yeah.
And seeing how far you've come. I mean, that's absolutely fantastic. And you know, the Atomic Habits book, I've read it. It's a great book. You know, I recommend that to everybody. It's a fantastic book. So it's great to see, you know, like, you're becoming comfortable with these things, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, you had to go through this in order to be able to teach it. You're doing it regularly still. And the fact is, it's kind of like with any sport or anything else you do, like you did with Tony, you played up to the level of your competition in a way, right?
100%.
So that's going to raise your level of playing, which could be very uncomfortable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And like you said, you went into a cold sweat yourself. And you could play rings around all of us here on this call. You know? So, and you're like, well, what you know, and most people would be like, yeah, Tony Polecastro is kind of a badass on guitar, and he's in cold sweat. You know, that's kind of crazy. But everybody has that moment, and that's not bad.
For sure.
That's something to embrace. So I just wanted to mention that. Like, that's all great stuff.
I love this whole conversation. Thanks. This is I want to lean into this mindset. Mindset is key with pretty much everything you do. And I think that what we're doing is we're describing the mindset of the Detroit Tigers since the All-Star break. This is exactly, they're looking backwards and they're going, look how much better we've gotten. And now look where we are, ladies and gentlemen. I will always bring it back to this. All right, more guitar questions for you. Tony, what guitars have you played that almost forced you to approach the guitar differently and in turn made you a better player for it?
Oh, that's a great question. Actually, the one I sold, I had a baritone. I want to say it was a 326. If I have the number wrong, you can smack me upside the head later. I purchased a 326. This was many, many years ago. Loved it. It just made me look at things differently. I mean, the intervals are the same. I use a lot of alternate tunings, but tonally, I think it pulled me in a vastly different direction. So I'll cite that instrument. There's also it's a shorter scale 12 string that you guys did, 524, maybe.
Five. Yeah, what would that be?
Well, 524.
It was
Yeah, that
all
was,
mahogany.
Yeah.
Yeah, but was it 12 string?
Yes.
526.
No,
550.
that would have been a
560.
552 or 562.
562 would be the all mahogany.
This
All
is
mahogany
what
That sounds-
happens on
12 fret.
This is what happens on a Taylor Guitars podcast when you have a lot of guitars that we have.
It could
to
also be.
memorize.
Well, I mean, it also did. What year? Do you happen to know how long ago it was?
This happened. This was probably 2017, 2018.
All right, so that would be like a 562 CE, the all mahogany.
That sounds-
12
that's
string,
it.
12 fret. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That all of a sudden allowed me to handle a 12 string differently because of the shorter scale length. I didn't feel like it was a wrestling match, and I felt like tonally, I felt like I could bring a softer touch and not feel like I had to like drive the spike. Like there was a lot of nuance to that guitar. So specifically, you know, in the Taylor guitars world, those two stick out. Nylon strings across the board always make me think differently. Again, it's not from the note perspective. It's from that feel and the touch and the dynamic that you can get from it. I'm a huge fan of resonator guitars. Dobro is my main instrument. I get called for more gigs for that than anything else. And I think looking at a guitar sitting in your lap, you're looking at the fretboard head on. It allowed me to make a lot of connections and just identify a lot. It's like patterns were just lighting up in front of my eyes that I then took to playing standard. So I'll say that. And then just, of course, the timbre and the range of a resonator guitar. I mean, far and away, some of my favorite sounds created on a stringed instrument. But I think that's true with you know, not just guitars, but I love playing banjo. I love playing mandolin.
Sure.
Like it's all there if you look at it through this perspective of pattern recognition. That's how my brain does stuff. So, but tonally, yeah.
I have a buddy.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a buddy in a band called This Wildlife. They're pretty successful, and they're great. It's really just a two-piece, and they switch instruments. It's wild. Sometimes they'll play drums, and one guy will play this and that. But I remember it was last winter, and he hit me up, and he goes, I know that, this is a weird question, but I know Andy Powers plays pedal steel. Can he give me any advice on what pedal steel to buy? And the reply from Andy was like, it was so great. It was like, well, that's a tricky question because the truth of the matter is none of them I would suggest. He goes, it's a real, none of them? Like, no, but sure, maybe. And he dropped a couple of names and he's like, just have him just find one and just learn how to play it because then you'll know what's good and what's bad. And you might, anyway.
Sure.
This kid just jumped on it and started playing it, and they now incorporated pedal steel into their like acoustic kind of like emo rock that they make, which is fantastic. But it's just that idea of picking up something new, you know, and just working at it. And I love this whole conversation. I kind of want to ask that question that I just asked to Gabe. Gabe, you've got a ton of instruments there. Right, you're in a studio all the time. Like you're an engineer. You love this game of recording music, making music, etc. What guitars have you played that forced you to approach playing guitar differently?
Baritones are always going to be a source of inspiration for me. I think as guitar players, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but that thing earlier on when you're learning chords and you figure out a chord and you think you invented it almost because you're so excited about it. Like you don't even know what it is. You're just like, that sounds super cool. Like, what is that? Anything I can do to get back there is exciting. So anytime I can mess around with like an alternate tuning or a different scale, you know, like a baritone or mandolin or anything I can switch to, banjo. My wife once, my wife's a choir teacher, and they wanted to do like a version of like Landslide with our high school choir. So she's like, hey, do you think you could come play? I've got a kid who plays guitar. Could you play banjo on this? And I'm like, probably. And so I bought a banjo and like taught myself the song, and I was like, okay, yeah, I can do it. And she's like, well, they wanted to know if you could do mandolin instead. And I'm like, probably. Like, and anything I can do to get back to that feeling of, oh, I just figured something out. I do my best work and my most fun, or have the most fun doing anything when I'm on the verge of failing badly. Like, I'm not sure if I can pull it off, but I think I can figure out how to get there. Like, that learning process is always fun. So nylon string is another big one for me. I just like Tony was talking so much about the kind of or alluding to something I talk about so much, which is like the touch and the feel. It's just different. You play differently. The way you attack strings on a nylon string guitar and what you do with it is wildly different. It just is. And unless you've really played a nylon string, you won't know what I'm talking about. But I very commonly will just like, Jay mentioned this earlier, but I work here in my studio most of the time, although I'll change it up and like work on a laptop on, upstairs in the living room sometimes. But wherever I am, right behind me, there's always a guitar sitting out, and I'll take breaks.
Yeah.
And every day I just take something else out, and it, if I go get coffee, it goes with me, or if I'm changing locations, it kind of goes with me, and it kind of, just kind of lives around for a day or two, and then I'll switch it out for something else. And it just, anything I can do to get a little bit inspired and just step away from my, whatever else I'm doing, my brain and my work, is anytime I can search, find some way to search for that. Pick up a Jazzmaster, plug in an amp, like, just push myself somewhere else is always, is always really fun.
Yeah, it's kind of that ooh moment.
Yeah. Oh, that looks fun.
That looks fun.
You look fun.
It's interesting that pretty much all of us, I mean, I haven't said the words baritone yet, but I would say baritone, right? It helps you, it inspires you to play a little bit differently, so much so that it's a perfect segue to our guitar model spotlights. This
I like how
episode's
you
brought.
did that.
You like that?
Yeah.
You like how I did that? This
So
episode of Primetime, episode 105, Leveling Up with Tony Polecastro, is brought to you by the 50th anniversary 316 CE limited baritone, our new Bajo Quinto from the Somos collection, which is fire. We're going to talk about that in a second. And then
I haven't played one of those yet. Those look fun.
Dude, wait, we got a little bit of content. It's fun. And we're going to go back. We're going to go back to the Builder's Edition 652 CE, which is a short-scaled 12-string in a grand concert body size. However, reverse strung like a Rickenbacker. So we're going to talk about that real quick. I'm going to play the 50th, the little baritone piece. We sat down with our business intelligence manager, Steve Therault, and we had him talk about a baritone. This dude is one of my favorite people. So let me find this clip real quick and play it for you. Where's Steve? There is Steve. I see him. All right, we'll be back in a few minutes. It's about 3.5 minutes long.
This is the 50th anniversary 316 CE 6-string baritone guitar. Limited. You put this in my hand 2 days ago, and I love it. I played it for the first time for about 10 minutes. Maybe the same experience I would have when I walk into a music store and pick up a guitar. And for the first time in a few years, I walked away from a guitar noodling and actually started having a new kind of song in my head. And what changed for me right away, playing the same songs or same kind of chord shapes that I've kind of been in a rut with for a while, is that of course everything goes down to B. But it's more than that. It's darker, and it invites more kind of different voicings than I'm used to thinking about. And by doing that, what I'm doing is I'm leaving chord qualities more open to ring out open strings, instead of trying to play like a whole cage system thing that I usually do, thinking more about getting bar chords, forming chord qualities. Instead, my mind goes to open with the kind of resonance and sustain that I think I haven't heard on other baritones, which I think kind of comes from the whole Taylor V-Class thing, but also typically in the past when I've played around with baritone guitars, I just pick it up and I'm just like noodling. Ooh, it's lower, right? That's cool, and it is cool, and it's enough to entertain me for a little while. But on this one, I came back to it several times over the last 2 days, and I wanted to play more and more because the action is so friendly that it's not just living down here in the cash register, as Stanley Clark would call it, right? It's you can play this thing all the way up and down, and when you get the kind of scale length that a baritone has, you're invited to come all the way up and play. And at first, when I think about baritones, it's like, well, what's the point of going up to the 5th or 7th or farther when you could just play normal guitar? That would be in range for normal guitar, but the tension is different. It's harder to play these things than I would usually think of, but it's still easy enough to do. But it changes what I think about when I play. So I'm playing more with open expression. So I'm not going to root that A here on the 12th fret on the 2nd string. I'm just going to play it open. And it's not an A per se, right? Because it's now, it's going to be down farther. It's going to be an E. So all of this just got my juices flowing in a different way and made me want to like come back and pick it up again and again over a couple days.
Baritones are tight.
They're so good. Steve
Yeah.
with a good plan too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
didn't know
Steve
Steve
is
was-
so fantastic, man. He is a remarkably talented human. He is
On so many levels.
on so many levels. I mean, he can rip a spreadsheet like nobody else and bring analytics into your life that you never thought you needed. And you look at these analytics and you're like, my goodness gracious, I needed those analytics. You are the
Ripping
smartest person
spreadsheets.
ever. I love Steve. So Steve, moving past this 58th year, Steve is going to be my new co-host on the From the Factory podcast. Steve is a wonderfully smart human, just a killer player, and he makes that baritone. Everything he said was exactly why I would say a baritone is one of those instruments that makes me approach guitar a little bit differently. What did you guys think?
I mean, I 100% agree. I think they're just super fun. Also, that guitar sounds so good. I'm
Through
super pumped.
iPhone audio? You like
Hey,
that? Dude,
You know,
right?
Good is good.
Good is good.
And I'm sorry, but so many like guitar reviews or demos on YouTube are just recorded with an iPhone. So if
I
it sounds
know.
good over that crappy microphone that's in those things, it's going to sound really good in your living room.
So now you know that guitar sounds good for sure.
Yeah, that's super exciting.
Jay,
Yeah.
I have a question. If I question it or say something controversial, will you fly me out so I can hang out with you guys again?
Well, I'll talk to you. Well, actually, kind of. So
Baritones are
kind of, yeah. So
terrible.
here's the deal, but yeah. So on the air right now, yeah, Tony. So we're gonna ask you to fly out
No.
because we got something controversial. But yeah, question, go.
No, I that was my question. That was all kidding aside. That thing sounded stellar. I mean, it really did sound good. And I think one of the things that he said that it was so succinct is that it invites you into those higher registers because they're more comfortable. I might be totally butchering the exact quote, but that's the same experience that I've had with baritones. It's just like it pulls your hand in a different direction than what you're used to. He called it the cash register, referencing another individual, Stanley Clark, I think he said. But yeah, it just invites you to explore in a different manner. I think everybody at one point or time in their life should either A, play one, but B, definitely own one, because the more time you spend with it, the more you kind of, the dominoes start to fall.
It's so absolutely incredible. It's a studio tool. It's a recording tool. It's a thing that gives you a layer or another texture that you don't usually get out of a normal 6-string flat top acoustic guitar. Mike, how do you feel about them?
I love them because, the joke that we always say is if you know 5 songs, pick up a baritone. You actually know 10. Because,
That's so good. I love
play
that.
all the same songs in the same chord forms and it just sounds completely different, And, for me, the heavy metal guy, I mean, I could pick it up and just start playing tunes by Korn acoustically without that much trouble. But, which is not necessarily what you should be doing on an acoustic baritone, but you can, it's perfectly okay. It's an inspiring tool because like everybody said, you play it different because you're playing the same notes, but in a different order that makes you want to do different things with it. And the great thing about baritones, they are a longer scale instrument. So they're 20, our baritones are 27 in scale. It doesn't feel like it. It really doesn't. It's not like you're extending outwards like you're about to take flight while you're trying to play this instrument. It's actually still very comfortable. And like Steve said, the action's super low on them. And it makes for an instrument that, while at first it takes you about 5 minutes to get used to it, if you've never played one before, you start figuring your way around this like, wow, this is a lot of fun. And of course, the sonic benefits, that low end that you just can't get out of like a standard 6-string guitar most of the time, that's really where it shines, is just giving you that full bottom end, but without it getting muddy. And that's the beauty part of it. It's just big and bold and out front. That's why I love our baritones.
Yeah, I would agree, Daria. Baritones are bananas, and they are so much fun to play, so inspiring to write on. That is true. They are super inspiring to write on. You get a different tonality from it. Let's move on to another inspiring instrument, our Somos collection Bajo Quinto. We are making, well, let me just show you this clip real quick. It's pretty incredible. Maybe. Oh, yeah, here. This guy's name is Pony, and he is a ripping player.
In a guitar, I feel that if you do a note, it still needs that bassy sound, So a bajo quinto, it has that full tone that you need, You could get a song from mariachi and turn it into norteño, and it's gonna sound dope. You feel me? You could get a pop song and turn it into norteño, it's gonna sound dope. The Mexican music, I feel that you could turn it into different styles. It's always gonna have that little catch. This instrument has a lot to offer. You know what I mean? It has a lot to offer, and you could put this instrument to any type of music, and it's gonna sound good.
So good. Mexicana, regional Mexicana music, everything. We are so close. We have such Latin culture here at Taylor. I mean, we are in San Diego, Baja California. So that was actually filmed 30 minutes south in Tijuana. We have a factory in Tecate. So being able to make Latin instruments like that has been something that Andy's wanted to do for a very, very, very long time. And there's not necessarily a great standard for those instruments. If you ask a lot of people, who makes a good Bajo Quinto, it's kind of like this luthier I met, right? You know what I mean? Like there's not a major manufacturer of guitars or instruments that are making Bajo Quintos. We also make a doce doble, which is a double 12-string. It means it's just 2 root notes. It doesn't have the octave string, so it's 2 heavy strings. Those instruments are insane. I believe we sent one to Manchester Orchestra, and they're going to use one on their new record. Just think about that. That's a rock band from Atlanta, and they're going to use a double 12-string on their record just because it gives you other layers. Fantastic instruments.
Just
Mike,
thicker.
Yeah. They're just wild, and the fact that it's based. Well, it is Grand Pacific body shape, right, with a Florentine cutaway. because those dudes use the entire neck of the guitar for sure. They have to get all the way up from one to the end of the world as we know it. That's what we would say. Anyway, those instruments are so incredible. We have a YouTube announcing those, or a video on YouTube announcing those instruments. They're phenomenal. Mike, how do you feel about them? I mean, we're inside baseball. Besides the other two guys who are remarkably intelligent and have probably maybe never played a bajo quinto. How do you feel about those instruments?
Well, the bajo quinto is definitely a more traditional instrument. That's been around for a while. It's a traditional Latin music instrument, and it's tuned in fourths, for those of you that don't know. So the actual tuning is A, D, G, C, and F. So it's 5 courses of strings, which makes for a really interesting look. It's a 10-string instrument, first off. Second of all, playing chord forms in fourths is a little bit different. So now you're really layering different textures and writing in a very different way and playing in a very different way. It lends itself heavily to Latin influenced music, obviously. But you could do a lot of different things with the bajo quinto, and playing around with them is a lot of fun. And I encourage, if you're near a store that happens to have one, play it. It's definitely very, very different. And you may find yourself doing things that you may not have thought of in the first place. Now, the Doce Doble, that's just a really beefy sounding guitar. It's just so thick. I mean, imagine the best parts of 12 string, meaning that, you're getting that chorusy type effect, but doubling down on the fundamental note of each string, right? Because they're all the same thickness. They're all the same octave. So, your E, you have 2 fat E's, you have 2 fat A's, you have 2 fat D's, all the way up to the high E. And when you play an open G chord or when you play a D chord, it's just that much bigger with a chorus effect, though everything's in unison. So it's really
wild.
Very interesting. I've never played anything else like that before. That's definitely nuts.
Tony, when you say something controversial and find your way in El Cajon, you'll have to play one for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure they may have one. They may have one.
I was gonna mention, not controversial at all. I used to work at the Old Town School of Folk Music years and years and years ago, and we would offer all sorts of different instruments because there was lessons for everything. I mean, from tabla to sitar to a bajo quinto, like you name it, they have lessons for it.
Tony's a bajo quinto ripper. Oh.
And accessibility was very difficult because, like you said, it's like, well, we knew this one guy that made it, but he only really made one, so we have it. But then when that one went away, like we didn't really have anything else. So I mean, major hats off to you guys for exploring that and making them accessible in a manner that's consistent. You know what I mean? Like that's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Yeah, the Takamine makes a conversion kit, I believe, for their 12-string to make a requinto style 12-string guitar. That's kind of what it is. It's Mexicana music. That's what it is. And Mike, I want to do a trivia bomb real quick on you. Ooh. The quinto is actually a German instrument. It made its way to South America. I'll give you the history lesson later on. I learned that when we were filming all the content for this. It's like the players that Marco, hats off to Marco on our marketing team, was able to pull in to represent these instruments are just massive. And one of the artists that we work with is a historian on this instrument. It's actually a German instrument. They were made to use and play in a waltz. That was the idea.
In a lot of ways.
Really, really interesting. Yeah.
When you think about a lot of Latin or Mexican music, it has that waltz bounce to it.
Yeah. Yep.
So it makes a ton of sense. Absolutely. I could see that 100%.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting when I learned that. It kind of probably was mouth breathing a little. All right, we got one more instrument. This is only about 25, maybe 30 seconds of where'd it go? One of the goats, Nathaniel Murphy, playing the 652 CE 12-string. Did you mix that, Gabe? Yeah, you did. You
Mm-hmm.
made that, didn't you?
I didn't film it, but I did mix and edit it.
Yeah. Anyway,
That's a
I just wanted to really show off Nathaniel Murphy because he's ridiculous.
I hate him.
We were doing some interviews recently, and we were doing some like Riverside FM kind of remote interviews with Bob Taylor over some guitars. It's our 50th anniversary. We want to talk about some guitars. It's a good time to do some interviews, and Nathaniel actually interviewed him. And the best thing I saw in this interview was Bob just start gushing, and just going like, he goes, before we start, can you do me a favor and just play like 60 seconds of something on any of those guitars that I may have my name on the headstock? Like, can you play anything for me? And he was like, really, this would be like the ultimate delight. Can you please? And Nathaniel was like, you want me to play? Right? And it was just a great exchange. Hopefully at some point you'll see the content. It's wonderful. And Nathaniel just ripped something real quick. And Bob was like, now I can go about my day and everything is fine. And he just, was gushing and gave him a ultimate compliment.
Nathaniel's such a good dude.
He's such a
is
wonderful
such a
guy.
good dude.
So much so that when my Premier League team and played his Premier League team this last weekend, and my Premier League team dismantled his, it was just like sports, but a different kind of sport, Gabe. It's the same thing that we do here, but he's a United fan, and they lost. Spurs. Okay, on to the next thing. Tony, have you ever played one of those Builders Edition 652s?
No, I have not.
That's one that you maybe should try. That reverse
I mean,
strung.
I think I know a couple people that could change that.
There's
That sounds like controversy.
That's controversial.
So
I think it's controversial.
we may have to fly him out.
Yeah.
He hasn't played one. So that's
Somewhere-
controversial.
I'm going to have to
there's a-
send you an email and call you out about not having ever played one of those instruments. I think
Yep.
that is just unfair for the internet.
Somewhere there's a fun clip of Jason Mraz discovering that guitar for the first time too.
Yeah.
That we filmed at NAMM.
Anywho, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to the end of the show. Tony, you've been you're so inspiring. Every time we talk, you've been on the show one other time. Hopefully you'll come back someday.
Love to.
But every single time I learn something, I tweak my thought process just a little. I feel inspired to go pick up a guitar and play for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or wash that car. So I
have a reading list now.
I know. I have a reading list. You're inspiring. What you're doing with Tony's Acoustic Challenge, you guys check it out. And Mom, it's not too late. Tony would be a perfect teacher to help get you there. I love what you're doing, man. It's incredible.
Well, thank you all of you for hanging, chatting. This was a blast. I'd love to come back. Thanks to everybody who was watching. I just love it. I'm a total nerd about it, and I just think the guitar has done so much for me personally. I just want everybody else to get just a little nugget of that, because it really did turn my life on a dime, and I know it can add so much to so many people's lives.
Nice. All right. Okay. Mike, do you have time for a Mike's question?
Oh, I do, and I got one.
All right, cool. But
Yes.
first, so let's do Mike's question. Let's do 3.5 seconds of sports real quick.
Okay.
I know that we've been talking about it a lot, but I just want to say a couple of things. One, Tony, how stoked are you for hockey season to be starting?
I'm so beyond excited. I'm
I'm
already
so
going.
excited.
I'm going to Vegas on the 11th. I'm going to watch the Blues play Vegas. I'm going to go to the Winter Classic at Wrigley Field.
Nice.
I am beyond excited for this season for
All
a
right,
lot of reasons.
Mom, I need to admit something. Tony Polecastro is the only Blackhawks fan that I like. Okay. And we have a mutual respect when the Blackhawks are doing well and our Red Wings aren't doing well. I will only admit that to Tony, that I'm feeling for his Blackhawks. Cheers for your Blackhawks. But right now, everything is about my Red Wings, and you get that. So there's that. The second thing is Go Lions and go Tigers. All right, let's move on to Mike's question.
Please.
I'm living in it, Mike. It's
look,
the journey,
I'm
not,
not-
the
The
destination.
Lions, the
True,
Tigers,
and
the
look-
Bears.
Destination, too.
Oh my!
Take the wins, right? We've been saying that all night. Take the wins. You did get a win today, and the Lions won the other day, and Jared Goff pitched a perfect game, essentially, in football.
The Lions
It
won.
was
the other
18
day?
for 18.
Yeah,
So
he had
Was
a
that by
perfect
accident?
passing game. Yeah.
yeah, I mean that was the most completions without a miss or whatever it is.
And
most
and
passes without
he
an incompletion.
caught a touchdown caught a
Yeah.
pass for a touchdown.
Yeah, he
So
threw
there's
2
that.
touchdowns and caught one. So interesting. All right.
Yeah.
I have a question for Tony. So, but everybody can answer this one. You know, in our musical journeys, you know, there's always something that we push ourselves to play, and we've talked about this all night. You know, trying to play up to the level of our competition or who it is that we're playing, and we do a lot of practicing, and we work on certain things. We do scales, we play songs. We all, or at least I believe, have our white whale of songs, the one that we just keep trying to nail, and it just eludes us because there's just something missing from the way that we're doing it. We may know all the notes, but it just doesn't come out just right. Tony, do you have a white whale song that you just like, wow, I want to nail this, but
And why is it happy
Yeah,
birthday?
you know, for me, yes, and it's more of a genre, but there is a specific song. Delta Blues, Old Time Blues is one of my favorites. Shout out to Tom Feldman. If nobody is familiar with his stuff, playcountryblues.com. He has a great library of phenomenal tunes. Hey Hey by Big Bill Brunzi is one of my favorite tunes of all time. I can play it. I can play the notes. It doesn't sound like Big Bill. And here's let me just throw this in there. I've played Big Bill's guitar. Old Town School has Big Bill's guitar. He willed it to the school when he passed away. I've played that guitar. It's not the guitar, folks. It's not the guitar. It's these things. And I don't have Big Bill's hands. I just don't. It's a white whale. That tone, his approach, his rhythmic feel, I can't get it.
I got one more this or that then. I forgot. I mean, I should have asked this earlier. Tony will know, right? Those who know, but Tony will know, I hope. Kingston Mines or Blues?
Oh, yeah. Oh, Kingston Mines, 100%.
Ooh, that's incredible, right? Why?
Vibe and history, I think. It still feels like an old blues club. I think those are really dying. Shout out to Buddy Guy's Legends too. It's definitely elevated and has a tourist element to it, but they get some stellar acts in there. Their brunch acts or their dinner acts are really, really wonderful. And usually it's free if you're just eating dinner.
You got to do a
Kingston
1-2
Mines,
punch. Yeah, Kingston Mines is just very. There's a you can, as Andy Powers would say, you can feel the angels in here. It's just pretty incredible.
That's
is
it.
not a
Nailed
diss
it.
on blues. Blues is great.
No.
Bad Leroy Brown used to just truly sit on the corner of the bar. Still the real
Yeah.
guy. Like there's stuff and there's some really fun stuff. But if you're ever in Chicago, if you could get, what is it on Elston, right? Yeah, if you could get down.
Yeah, I think it's in Lincoln Park or
Yeah.
Lincoln Park-ish.
Lincoln Park adjacent on Elston, and there is two clubs are kind of across from each other. Kingston Mines just has just a little bit more history. That's phenomenal. Anyway, that was a blues club, blues bar moment. Everyone, this has been a fantastic show. This is absolutely killer. It was a great topic. My mom's going to start playing guitar now, which is we've been trying for like 105 episodes. Mom, we did 105 things, and you're going to start playing guitar. It was killer. Mike, as always, you're fantastic. Gabe, you're also the only Guardians fan that I like, so that's great. It's all good, man. I hope we get to play you guys in the next little
Me too. That's
Series
gonna be
of-
fun.
series of baseball stuff. And Tony, you're the best, man. Thank you for joining. That's it.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to wrap
Thanks
the
for having me.
show.
It was
We're
a
all going to
treat.
say goodbye. You guys, we do this for you. We're grateful to have you hang out with us every week. You guys are the ones. Thank you so much. And yes, Tex, go Mets. I guess. All right.
OMG.
Have a good night, everybody. Peace out.
See you, nerds.
So yeah.
Nerds.